ladies and gentlemen. This is Alex with Squeaky's Reef. I'm at the beginning of a process of setting up a 112-gallon mixed reef tank. This will be my first fish tank, so I'm going to log all of my activities and hopefully you all can learn from some of my mistakes. I have spent the last 6 months obsessively watching YouTube videos, especially BRS, of course, and CJ's Aquariums. Special shout out to CJ for making the most watchable reef journal that I've seen, period, and then turning around and, giving away the keys to his kingdom and showing everyone else how to do it. You rock, CJ. So I've never really spray painted anything before with any seriousness, and I made some mistakes. My hand was definitely too close, so I was getting a lot of drips. But by the time I got 5 or 6 coats on, you couldn't really tell. And also, I guess the wind was blowing a lot, and so some paint got up underneath. I didn't have a good seal, and I ended up having to scrape a little bit off the front. But fortunately, it just, here's a picture of that. It just came right off with a razor blade. It really couldn't have been easier. And in the end, it came out looking pretty sharp, I think. And I was ready to start putting some equipment in it. But before I could get to any of that, my 4-year-old daughter crept up behind me and knocked the tripod with my uncased camera over. Fortunately, I caught it with Matrix-like reflexes.
Isabella!
So when I bought the aquarium, it came with a hang-on-the-back filter. That's pretty decent and respectable. But I went ahead and got a pretty big sponge filter too that had a little bit of biomedia inside of it. And then I even put a little bit of Seacom's Pond Matrix in the back of my filter, and it's probably overkill, but because I don't know how many fish I'm going to have at a time, really wanted to make sure there was enough, nitrifying bacteria to handle the load. So obviously I got some PVC for hiding spots for the fishes. I think I got some 2-inch and some 3-inch. And I got a 100-watt heater from eBay, 2-pack for like $12 or so. It was really cheap, but it seems to be working okay. And I got a thermometer sticker for the front, and I also have a probing thermometer just to make sure I always have a really good sense of the temperature. And then it was time to add some water and plug everything in and make sure everything works okay. We have an RODI unit in the mail. It should be here next week, but for now we decided to fill it out of the tap. Then it was time to break out the bucket of reef crystals, get some salt, and get everything mixing with an old power head I had. Now, I followed the recipe on the side of the reef crystals box, so I'm relatively sure that my salinity is correct, but I still don't have a refractometer. It was supposed to be here yesterday, but now it's supposed to be here Tuesday, so I'm just going to have to check the salinity when it gets here and make adjustments if I need to, if it's a little bit high or low. So in order to track the cycle and find out when it would be safe to add fish, I went out and I bought an API saltwater test kit. It's one of the cheapest ones on the market, but it should be good to just track ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, and pH. And because I am that kind of nerd, I made charts to track all 4 of these parameters so that I'll have a really good idea visually of when the ammonia is no longer there and the nitrite and then finally the nitrates become present. And that's probably overkill, but that's okay. So that's a clip of the pond matrix I have. I put a little bit in the back of the hang-on filter, and then I was, pretty much ready to roll, but I realized that I wasn't going to be happy unless I had, an ammonia source and some nitrifying bacteria added to the tank. So the first thing I was going to tackle was the ammonia source, and I headed over to the grocery store. My intention was to buy a single large jumbo shrimp and let it decay in the tank as an ammonia source. But they gave it to me when I told him what it was for. I had the girls there, and he was more than happy to just, give it to me, which was really cool. And then instead of using a media bag, I went in the next aisle over, and I got one of these metal permanent tea bags that's going to work perfectly for making sure that, the bacteria gets out, but that I still have a pretty good control over, the actual rotting flesh. And on the other end of this tea bag, there was a little hook that fit perfectly onto a rod on my aquarium so that it dangled right in and I had great access to it on the top of the tank. First thing tomorrow, I'll stop by Petco and buy a bottle of nitrifying bacteria to really have things dialed in nicely. And I'll give you an update here in a week or two, and I'll let you know how it's going. Y'all take it easy.